Welcome to White Space, our weekly look at the news in the data center industry. So Max, there's processor news this week.
Yes, very big processor news. Now, I've personally been waiting for this for a long time. It's an AMD ARM chip.
Excellent. So now, these AMD ARM chips, they've been promised for a long while, and they're meant to be good for low-power microservers that could change the way data centers get filled up.
Nobody says microservers anymore. Basically, during the presentation, they haven't mentioned it once. I actually had to ask them, so do you think microservers are well and truly dead? And he was like, no, in some geographic markets, they're really popular. So that's pretty much a yes.
Okay, so they've delivered this and nobody needs it anymore? Or is it not quite that bad?
We'll see. Basically, it all depends. Because the idea is great, right? We have large banks of relatively underpowered chips that consume virtually no power and can still do, like any rudimentary tasks they need them to do. These are not, like the big computing chips. But for example, for a database server where you need loads of RAM and pretty much no processing, fantastic. They have, because these are systems on the chip as well, so there's loads of stuff integrated on the die. They have like Ethernet, SATA, PCIe with loads of lanes. It sounds nice, and it's under $150. And what AMD wants to do, it doesn't want sort of like, a wealth of commercial products based on this, but it wants developers to get involved. It wants people like SUSE and Red Hat to get involved, to get their Linux distributions to work on ARM properly, because that's still, it's a pretty exotic solution.
Right. So it's not going for commercialism, it's keeping its artistic integrity.
Pretty much, yeah.
Good for AMD.
And I think you've been on that call when they said, oh yeah, we have so much more planned. So this is just step one.
All right, there's more to come. Right, so more AMD in future weeks.
Sort of my heart bleeds for them. I mean, good luck.
Okay, I've heard more news from an old friend this week. Yandex, the Russian search engine, who I met their data center manager, Ari Kirby, at CeBIT last year, and he was talking about their data center in Finland, which would be producing waste heat to heat the nearby city of Matsala. And last month, in December, they flipped the switch and turned on the heat recovery plant.
If I remember correctly, he said that the sort of like heat in a data center is almost as important a resource as compute, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So numerous people have said this, and so it could even affect the priority you give to efficiency over as opposed to reusing the heat. If you can reuse the heat, it can be a source of revenue. And so in his data center, he actually had to install some extra air handling to pump the hot air to the heat recovery plant, which technically reduced his PUE a bit in the process. Sorry, increased his PUE a bit in the process, but it was worth doing because of the greater efficiency and the thing to the bottom line.
Okay, and did they have this heating system in place? So
yes.
They just literally plugged in. So it's a great thing you can do, but you can't do it everywhere, right?
Yes. As when one of the things Ari said to us last year is basically to build an efficient data center in terms of reusing the heat. You're better off if you build it near to an existing district heating service.
Basically, you need to be in Scandinavia.
That's kind of it. Speaking of air handling, one thing I like about this, if you look at the aerial view of the data center, it looks like aeroplane wings.
It does. Yeah.
It's even angled like aeroplane wings, and in cross section they have like a sort of a curve like an aeroplane wing, which is designed to create exactly the right pressure on the inlet, so that exactly the right amount of air comes through to cool the system.
Brilliant.
Good stuff. So this week, the European Union has done an interesting deal with a telecoms provider.
Yes, yes, and we've been sitting and scratching our heads because it's our own homeboy BT, and it is now going to provide exclusive private cloud services to 52 European organizations, including the European Parliament, the European Defence Agency, and European Commission. They also got another contract where they're going to be one of the 5 organizations providing public cloud services. So BT is really capitalizing on EU. They've the worth of the contracts is 24 million euros in total.
What, each year or
no. I think that's all of it. But this follows another 2 contracts they got last year to provide telecommunications services, including voice communications and broadband. So essentially all of the EU machine is now going to be supplied by BT, and BT just happens to share a country with GCHQ, which is one of the most aggressive spy agencies in the world, sort of like closely resembling NSA.
So privacy advocates aren't so pleased with this deal. They might have preferred Deutsche Telekom to get it.
Yes, and it's also strange, whenever we hear, one company getting all the contracts for a particular sort of like tender, it's just they're either really, really good or really, really cheap.
Yes, or there's some deal being done. The BT's already had quite a lot of criticism for the OpenReach provision of BD UK broadband across the UK. That was viewed by some people as being a bit monopolistic.
Exactly, because the bidding process included just 2 companies, BT and Fujitsu, and like at halfway through Fujitsu dropped out, so it was a contest where nobody participated but BT, so they won.
Yes, and I'm sure they produced the most competitive price that they could.
Well, according to the government they did, yes, and the service is there, and we're all enjoying super fast broadband now.
Right, we've all got super fast broadband because they decided that super fast means 10 megabits. Oh well. Amazon Web Services going from strength to strength. The giant cloud provider has opened a facility in Canada.
Yes, or planning to open a facility in Canada.
Yes. It's announced that sometime this year there will be a new AWS region in Canada. By region it means data center or set of data centers, because sometimes in one country or area you can have more than one Amazon Web Services data center, which gives you different availability zones. But essentially it means if you're in Canada and you want to keep your data in Canada and you want to keep it on AWS, you can. Potentially, if you read between the lines of the announcement, it could also mean that if you're in America and you'd rather keep your data in Canada, you can.
Absolutely, exactly, because I guess that should be a pretty big use case, because our friends from Tech Week Europe, literally a day before this announcement came out, they've published a feature with the title "Why Isn't AWS Coming to Canada?" And they made a good case as sort of like pro and against, in terms of like it's a very large territory, but it's a very small population. So running sort of hyperscale data centers in Canada is tricky because you need customers from somewhere else.
Yes, but Amazon is not by any means the first company in there. A lot of the big players are already there. IBM has 2 data centers in Canada. Oracle has sites there. Salesforce has sites. There must be a lot of activity, presumably from American customers. Thanks for joining us. That's White Space this week. Let's see you next week.
Yeah, see you.